A reading from the book of Deuteronomy. Moses spoke to all the people, saying, "A prophet like me will the Lord your God raise up for you from among your own kin. To him you shall listen. This is exactly what you requested of the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly, when you said, 'Let us not again hear the voice of the Lord our God, nor see this great fire any more, lest we die.' And the Lord said to me, 'This was well said. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their kin, and will put my words into his mouth. He shall tell them all that I command him. Whoever will not listen to my words, which he speaks in my name, I myself will make him answer for it. But if a prophet presumes to speak in my name an oracle that I have not commanded him to speak, or speaks in the name of other gods, he shall die.'" The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Anyone who's ever been around middle school students knows how wonderful and excitable and awkward they are. And in many ways, middle school students are kind of like prophets. Why I say that is for both a type of prophet is an emissary or an intermediary, and middle school students are very excellent mediators and emissaries for one another. So, I taught middle school for a few years, and I'm familiar with this. So usually it comes in the fall a little bit, and then in the spring, there's a period of time where you see a lot of notes being passed back and forth, different groups of boys talking to some girls, and vice versa. And with this, you have these emissaries that go forth representing the one boy or the one girl to find out if that other boy or girl likes them or not. And you have the sheet of paper that says check yes or check no, do you like so-and-so. So we have emissaries here. Now we also have emissaries here in the reading. And in fact, it's one emissary, and it's Moses. So before this took place in Deuteronomy, in Exodus, one of the accounts for the Ten Commandments, Moses goes up Mount Horeb, and while he's up there, there's clouds and fire and lightning and thunder and trembling in the earth. And it's very terrifying for the Israelites. The Jewish people are very scared, they're frightened, and they tell Moses, "We don't want to talk to God if it's going to be like this. We're going to die." So Moses and God communicate and decide that perhaps it's best if Moses is the emissary or the intermediary for the Jewish people. Now fast forward a few years, and we get to here in Deuteronomy, and Moses knows it's close to the end of his time. The people know that Moses is going to die, and they're scared. They're really scared. And they have a right to be, because who's going to be their emissary? Who's going to be their intermediary now? But not to worry. God tells Moses to tell them that he will select another person to be that emissary. And there's generations and generations and generations of prophets that come to exist. And if you want to know more about those, you need to take Father Kevin's class. It's called Prophets, well named. And with all these prophets, they bring forth the Word of God. They deliver messages. They deliver warnings. They try to make the law much more understandable for the people. But unfortunately, in most cases, the people don't listen. Some they'll stone or kill. Others they'll exile, and others they just ignore. As we hear in the reading here, if the people don't listen to the prophet, there'll be consequences. And we see that in the history of the Jewish people with different conquests and loss of the temple and other movements of people, and it's a messy history. But it doesn't just end here. In fact, perhaps this is speaking of the greatest prophet to come. And we know this greatest prophet is Jesus. And he's more than just a prophet. He's more than just a prophet and king, and more than just a prophet, priest, and king. In fact, he is the Son of the Divine One. He is both man and God. And he's the greatest emissary we can have. And he makes it possible for humans once again to talk to God. No longer do we need an intermediary to do that, for God has come to us and communicates with us and wants to have a personal relationship with us. In addition, he takes on some of the roles of prophets and priests with the sacrifice. No longer is it necessary for the blood of goats and bulls to be sacrificed for the atonement of sins, for he laid down his own life. He gave us his life, and for the forgiveness of sins, not just present and past, but past, present, and future. He also taught us the law, and he made it much simpler. He simplified the law for the people, and allowing them to have an easier time following the law. So, he suffers, dies, and rises. And before he leaves the people to ascend to heaven, he knows that he commissions the next generation of prophets. He sends them forth to carry out his message. The same message that he sent his disciples earlier to carry out, the coming of the great King. Now we have the resurrection and the possibility of redemption for all people. And we are inheritors of this tradition. Just like the prophets of old passed on their traditions, their teachings to the next generation of prophets, we've been handed on the truths, and we are to proclaim them. And as we see and hear, God says he will put his words into our mouths. He shall tell them all, and we shall tell them all that he commands us. So we have been given the words. We've been given the good news to pass on to all we meet. And this is an important challenge for us, especially us as Dominicans. So brothers and sisters, we have been empowered, we've been sent forth to proclaim the good news. And this is something that we must do. And something that we must do. And just like the prophets of old and like middle school students, we've been given this sheet of paper to pass out that says, do you love God, yes or no? So let us bring that forth to all that we meet.